Hi everybody, this is Oksana and today we're going to be making this pendant here. It's a little bit different than my other designs because we're using a really thick half round wire here, and this works best with a Marquise shaped stone. And here's what it looks like from the sides and the back. So if you want to see how to make this this pendant, just keep watching. So today we're going to be using some nice and thick half round copper, and it is 14 gauge. Mine is from riogrande.com. It is dead soft, so as you can see, it's flat on one side, rounded on the other, just a really thick version of the half round copper that we normally use to make connections. Here's the one that we use to make the connections. It's a nice thin one by comparison. It's the same shape, but this one is 22 gauge. So, but they're both half round. We actually are going to use this wire as well. We're going to use both of these. And let me measure this thicker wire. So the piece I have is 8 inches, and then I also have my stone here. It's a little Marquise shaped stone, and it's less than an inch. Let me measure it. It's a little less than an inch. It is about 22 millimeters, if you want to be precise. And the thing about this design is you want to stick with small. If it gets bigger, it's harder to keep the stone really secure in there. So I recommend sticking with smaller sizes of stone. All right, so this first part is a little bit tricky. It might be the trickiest part of the whole thing, and that is we want to bend this half round wire in half, but not the way that it wants to go in half, which is like this. We want to bend it in half so that this rounded, thicker part is here on the front. So you notice I grabbed a little piece of cloth there, and the reason I did that is because this wire, when I squish it down with my pliers, which I'm going to be doing a lot as I'm trying to make this bend, I don't want to scratch it, and so I'm going to be using this cloth around it. So what you want to do is you want to start to make your bend. Just go as much as you can with it, and what you will notice starts happening is that it'll tend to want to kind of bend and not stay in the shape where it's rounded here in the front. So you can't see that too much on mine quite yet, but maybe if I bend it more, you'll see it kind of starts to be less flat, so to speak. So I'm going to put it in my cloth so that I don't scratch it, and I'm gonna go over it with my pliers. Oops, that might have scratched it there because I pressed kind of hard. No, it's fine. I'm just flattening it to keep that nice flat, rounded up, flat side down shape. And we're gonna do this more as we bring it closer together. So I'm actually going to squish it this way with my pliers now. The key thing to this is just to go nice and slow and just really take your time with this. Be kind of gentle and careful, and you'll get there. So I'll show you what's happening here. Now hopefully you can see it, how it's no longer flat. It's like rising up here in the back. So this is what we need that cloth for. This is what we need to press it down to keep it flat, and you have to kind of keep fixing it as you go because it's gonna wanna, here I'll show you without the cloth because you can't really see, but this part is like rising up, but then I'm gonna press down on it and it's gonna maintain that shape. If you press down a lot, you might scratch your wire. That's why I recommend using cloth. So we're just gonna keep doing this And keep using your cloth. I'm going to do it without it so you can see better, but we're going to keep bringing it closer and closer together and trying to get the smallest little point here. So you can see mine's all discombobulated again. So for this part, I'll use the cloth just because it'll get really scratched up if I don't. But you just put it in there and just squish it flat. You can kind of feel if you did it correctly. So this part is actually coming, the two wires are coming together nicely, but here we still have that gap. So we're gonna try and close up the gap. There we go. So you can see the shape of it has changed quite a bit. Just gonna go over that with my pliers to flatten it up. And as I showed you guys in my little tip video recently, these little marks that I've made in the wire, you can kind of buff those out with some sandpaper and that'll take care of it. All right, so what you want to do now is you want to take the tip of it just like a little bit and you want to bend that down like that. And then you want to take your Marquise shaped stone and just kind of pop that in there. So this is how it's going to sit, and this is how it's going to hold the stone here from the front. So now we are going to be using this thinner half round wire, the 22 gauge. Give yourself a nice long end, like 5 inches or something, and wrap it a few times and leave that end. We're going to use it. So push that up to the top here where it starts to bend and leave that end. And then here, ooh, this got twisted up. We are going to guide the half round wire as we twist the piece, and we're going to just go all the way down until we start to approach where the bottom of the stone would sit. So every once in a while, just get in there and squish that down. It'll help keep these two wires aligned nicely next to each other as well. So I'm just going to do this for a little bit, and then I'll grab my stone and I'll see how it's looking. All right, I'll check my stone now in 1 second. Also, you want to make sure this is nice and flat. Sometimes it starts to kind of get a curve in it. So let me just check how I want this stone to be situated. Actually, it's kind of shiny both ways, so it doesn't matter. Oops, this wire moved out of the way. So if we put this in and we check how it's looking, I kind of want it to be not all the way to the bottom, but just a few more wraps. So we're getting there. You want it to be close to the bottom, but you want like the bottom point to be peeking out, so to speak, because we're gonna trap that little bottom point, and that's how we're gonna secure it. So I'm just gonna trim it. This is long enough now because I just needed a few more wraps. So I'm just going to squish that down like this. So I'll show you how it looks in relation to the stone. Like this. See, the point of the stone is there. So now what you want to do is you want to separate these two wires. And we're going to put our stone in there, and try and hold it in. I know it's really slippery, but hold it in as much as you can. And now you want the wire to be on each side of this little point, so it'll kind of like trap the point in here, and you want to bend it forward, but don't have them crisscross. Try to keep them one on each side. Don't bend them so much that this wire starts going over on this side. So just kind of carefully bend it, and it starts to get easier because your stone starts to get a little more trapped. So we want to bend it almost like straight up rather than across, like this. Okay, now your stone is starting to be a little trapped in here. So take this wire, kind of following it along. Make sure you're using the rounded side up and kind of following that direction. So I'm just gonna straighten these a little bit there. And actually, since they're half round, if they turned on you and they're no longer, you know, flat on one side, round on the other, they're more like sideways, then go ahead and just use your pliers to fix that, because that will happen with this half round wire. All right, here we go. So taking this wire here, this round wire, we're going to bring it across, and we want to wrap it around these two wires, but we do want them to at least start coming together a little bit. So we're just going to put a little bend in and just kind of work them towards each other just a little bit, making sure they still stay with, you know, the rounded side up here and the flat side in the back. So you don't want to like twist them sideways or anything. You're just kind of putting a bend and kind of gently moving them towards each other. Let's see how that's looking. All right, so now we're going to continue with this wire, this half round wire, and we're just going to wrap it around those two wires there. That's going to be our bail. And press that down. So here is how we're looking so far. So I'm just gonna do maybe like 2 or 3 more wraps, and then I'm just gonna trim that little wire end and leave it here in the back. So it'll end up being inside of your bail and you won't see the wire end. Just squish that in there. So at this point, your stone might still be like a little bit wobbly. It's not going to pop out necessarily, but it can move a little bit from side to side. I'm going to take my round nose pliers. Actually, before I do that, I'm just going to trim so these are the same. Obviously, when I bent it in half, it wasn't like a perfect half. So now these two are the same. It makes it easier, and I'm just going to use my round nose pliers, my bail making pliers, to make that rounded bail shape like this. Right, and now for this next part, this is gonna help the stone be a little bit less wobbly, hopefully. So we have these two wires, hold them together here and separate them. But the reason you want to hold them is so when you separate them, the bail doesn't come apart, just the bottom of the wires does. And then you're going to take them with your round nose pliers, and you're going to make like a curl until it goes completely around there like this, just a complete circle. Like that, and on the other side as well. a complete circle. And what you want to do, because with this type of wire, sometimes you can feel the little end there. You can just press down. Right there, you can see a good example. See that little end is like sticking out? If you just press, it just pushes it down and then keeps everything nice and smooth for you. All right, so here's what it looks like from the front. So here on the bottom, you just want to take your pliers and just kind of press down on these wires a little bit. That'll help tighten them around this point so it's not as shaky. So now I just grab myself a little piece of half round wire, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put it underneath like this. Just slide that under until you have about 2 equal ends. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna take this wire, we're gonna bend it forward, and you want it to go underneath the frontmost wire, but then also, this might be a little tricky, also through that little loop like this. And then you just want to pull on that, tighten that up. And then before we do more, let's just do the other side. So just underneath. It basically, we're connecting the front wire to those little side loops that we've made, and you do want to pull this tight because this will help prevent your stone from being wobbly and make everything nice and tight. All right, just trying to make it equal, like even. There we go. So now, before we finish off this wire, we're putting it just underneath just this one wire, this frontmost wire. So just pull tight on that. And we're gonna do this a few times, maybe 3 more times or 4 more times. It's up to you. You can do it all the way up if you want. All right, so we're just going around and around and around, and then this is just basically to secure the wire. We're gonna trim that off. So trim it off in such a way that the little end, the little wire end, is hidden here on the back. You don't want it to be so long that it's hanging over the edge. And then we're just gonna press down on that, just like that. Okay. And here from the front, we're just gonna tighten this top portion by grabbing it with our pliers and just bringing it together. It's nice and tight because you pressed it all together with your pliers. This little wire kind of stays down here though. We can't press it together because it's like underneath this loop, as you can see. So now on the other side, same thing. We're just gonna work it underneath that frontmost wire and just do the same number of loops or wraps that you did on the other side, so it is even. So when you've done that and you have the same number of wraps on both sides, just the same thing, we're just gonna trim it short so that the little wire end, you can kind of see it there. When we squish it down, it's just in here and you can't feel it. And then if you need to, bring those together. All right, so that prevents the stone from being wobbly up at the top here, this little tip of the stone from kind of going side to side, because we have these little swirls just kind of squishing it in and holding it up there. And so mine stone isn't wobbly at all now, but if yours is, then it might be just that these 2 wires at the bottom there aren't like tight enough around it, and so you just want to kind of squish them this way if that's the case. Last little step here that's optional. You can add a little bead to cover up this little hole in the front. Not that it looks bad or needs to be covered up, it's just an optional thing. So this is a 2mm seamed copper bead from Rio Grande, and that fits on the same 22 gauge half round wire that I've been using, and it kind of works nicely there in this little gap. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to work that through here. And just basically I'm wrapping once around this wire. And then on the other side here, I'm just doing the same thing, wrapping once around. And it's looking rather crooked. So I'm just trying to find like a nice symmetry there for it. Because the problem is the 3mm bead is too big, but this 2mm bead is really tiny. There we go. Now it doesn't slide around. So now we're just pressing these wires to the back, these half round wires, because there's really not enough room to wrap around and around here and then trim them off, which is normally what I would do. But because there's not enough room here on the front, let me zoom in so you can see. I'm gonna bring them to the back and I'm gonna wrap them around these wires instead, just because it's a little easier to get to there. So just wrapping around a few times, and then once you're done, we're just going to trim that so the wire end is in there inside of the bail, and just going to squish that down. So just like that, and that's really just to connect the wire, so it's connected to something, it doesn't unravel, because we only have one little wrap up at the front there. When we added the bead, there's just one little wrap there. All right, so now just around the other side. Ooh, it's not going in. There we go. So just the same thing, just a few times there. And then I'm just trimming that just right in there and squishing that down a little bit. Squishing it together this way as well. So here on the back, that's the connection that we've made, but on the front, what we've accomplished is we attached the little bead. And these little loops on the side, what you can do if they're sticking out too much is just press down on them with your pliers. And you can get them to the point where you pretty much can't even see them really from the front. So that's it. It'll look nice oxidized as well, because then all the texture will come out and you'll be able, the little bead will be more noticeable. But that's it. That's this little pendant there. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time. Bye.